Solveigh Hieronimus, who's a partner from McKinsey, and she's here because McKinsey have released an influential report on this area, particularly looking at the skills gap. Welcome, Solveigh.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Hello, everyone, or good afternoon. I'm very excited, as well as my co-panelists, to be speaking to you today about the role of education in a transition to productive and happy labor in the future. And in particular, I would like to pick up on the point what digital has to do about that. So I'm going to say something now that sounds very McKinsey and you will expect from me. So in education, we do call educators to actually change their business model. I profoundly think they will need to change their business model, because they were in the business of transferring knowledge. We've just seen that picture of Aristotle thousands of years back. Classrooms haven't changed. Knowledge was proprietary. It used to sit in books. It was held by scholars, and these scholars would then transfer that knowledge onto their students. In different settings over the years, classroom size is a bit larger or a bit smaller, but it was still about the knowledge transfer from somebody who has it to somebody who doesn't have it. So here comes digital. Digital suddenly makes knowledge accessible to anyone. The world's knowledge really is 3 clicks away, every knowledge. So we've seen it before on cancer research, so any knowledge on any complicated disease, any mathematical formulas, language abilities, we've heard from Renee before on Google Translate. This type of knowledge, so standardized knowledge we used to teach, is something that is not differentiating anymore and will not be differentiated anymore in the future. And while knowledge, of course, keeps being important, it's just out there. It's other things we need to be teaching our young people for them to be ready for the future of labor markets. And that's actually skills. So if you think in a picture, so knowledge is almost an ocean of knowledge out there, right? It's vast, it's abundant, you don't even know where to navigate with this. And the skill that's really desired for young people is maybe a surfboard. So these skills to equip them to serve that ocean of knowledge that's so abundant, so ever-changing, and ride it successfully and also happily, and not in a confused way, on their road from education to employment. So do these young people today already all have those surfboards and from skills to navigate this ocean of knowledge that's ever-growing, multiplying every day? Do they have that? I don't think they do. At least not enough. And at least not to the extent where Europe really needs it to maintain its edge of competitiveness and growth. And youth unemployment figures really speak a pretty clear language to that, I think. So it's very hard these days, and still these days, even quite a few years now after the financial crisis, to open a newspaper in Europe. And I mean anywhere in Europe. So from the south of Spain to the north of Sweden. It also actually doesn't matter whether you're reading The Economist, where we've heard a few words before, or you're reading The Sun. You're going to stumble upon the issue of youth unemployment or some of its consequences around Europe every single day in any given country, really. So the issue does just not go away. So this is certainly a problem also of contracting demand that hasn't recouped yet. That is certainly the case. However, this being so stubborn and high over the past couple of years, there's much more to the issue, and it's much more complex, in particular over Europe, which is so diverse. In order to understand that better and really bring facts to the table and facts to the debate and understand what's actually driving youth unemployment in Europe at these soaring levels still, McKinsey Company fielded a survey, a research piece, across 8 European countries, which are home in total to about 75% of Europe's unemployed population. And not only did we survey them representatively, 75% of Europe's unemployed youth, we actually even spoke to 3 stakeholder groups, which are very important to the issue of youth unemployment. So one, the young people themselves, obviously. How do they perceive their journey from education to employment? Why is it so difficult? What are the road bumps they're running into? And how can we help them actually get over those? However, there are 2 other parties involved in that game that are very important for this journey to run successfully. These are the educators themselves, where the young people go to and get their education, and the people who are transporting that knowledge and hopefully those skills at some point to these young people. And then it's the employers, who are the receiving end of that production engine of education, so receiving talent fresh out of universities, out of vocational training into their ranks, and say they're not so satisfied. So we fielded that survey, and while there are obviously tons of interesting facts in it, and I recommend you to read it, there's just one fact I would love to leave behind for today, or discuss for today, which is the skill gap. We've heard about the skill gap before in the context of ICT, and we've touched upon it in various presentations. The skill gap I'm going to talk about is a bit broader, more profound. So there is still, of course, a skill gap on ICT, but skills employers are lacking much broader, from problem-solving abilities to team-working skills to the classical hard skills still, from doing any analytical task or properly writing. And while in Europe, as I said, #1 fact from our study, youth unemployment is so high, employers do not seem to find the skills they need for their businesses. And we surveyed all of them, from large to small, across different sectors, across different industrial functions, and they all share the same thought. About 1/3 of employers across Europe state that they do not find the skills they need in applicants to even fill their entry-level positions. And just under 1/3 of them actually even left positions empty because of that lack of skill that is showing up at their doorstep. 1/3 of entry-level positions left empty. So while this is something most of you have probably read, here comes a very unintuitive fact we stumbled upon, which is the fact that while in countries of high youth unemployment, so close to 50%, Spain, Portugal, parts of Greece, the employers actually who have the highest youth unemployment in their countries agree the most to that statement, that they do not find the skills they need to fill their entry-level positions, and it's scary to their businesses. This is really shocking, because you would think that talent comes knocking down their doors, and actually they can choose from a sea of plenty. So what can digital now do to actually close that skill gap between the young people and the demand on the labor market? There's 3 things digital can do about that. 1, it can actually help young people make better choices. So it can give young people the transparency on the choices of future employment opportunities and educational opportunities and the consequences these have. 1, make better choices, give them the full information, make them clear on the implications of the educational path they're choosing and what that can lead them to, and also of the trade-offs between similar paths they can take.
The other 2 really quickly, because we won't get to the third speaker otherwise.
Secondly, it's about the educational institutions. Educational institutions can actually make their what they teach much more relevant to today's labor markets, as well as their how they're teaching much more interactive, simulations, hands-on learning, so they're actually building the skills they need. And the employers need to get in much earlier in the game to actually help shape those curricula, talk to the young people, and make their voices heard on what they need in terms of skills, so the educational system is actually not developing something they don't need